What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel Anime Fiction. I'm back with a new episode of what if Naruto was the immortal king of X-Men part 5. And if it did enjoy the video, give this a like, and if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more crossover fictions. Now let's begin this new video.
Chapter 16. Hey guys, how's it hanging? Hope you didn't sleep last night because I was partying all night, Naruto said as he walked into the meeting room, Natasha clinging to him.
He liked hugging, so he hugged her tightly. It had been so good that she found it difficult to let him leave. The comfort it provided was out of this world, and it tugged at her heartstrings. No sleep thanks to you, Tony said, taking a sip from his bottle and raising an eyebrow at him.
He didn't imagine Naruto was such a ladies' man that he could even get Black Widow to act that way. I hope you're not affecting her mind with your powers, Steve inquired, noting that he had never seen Natasha appear clinging to a male without it being part of a task. Natasha had distanced herself from him because she felt conflicted within from acting so quickly.
I would never do that, Steve, that's disgusting. Naruto shook his head and sat down. He hasn't used any mind control or anything. His presence just feels very nice when you have physical contact with him. Natasha elaborated.
Remind me never to get close to you. I value my straightness, Tony said with a shudder as his drunken mind conjured up a terrifying image of what would happen if he got near to a guy. Don't worry, it doesn't have the same affect on guys and it only makes me you feel relaxed and safe by my side. Is that based on the same understanding principles you mentioned? He questioned from his seat, as he was also joining for this joint.
Yes, so what is the verdict? We are fine with you taking over if the people accept you. You will not directly control or affect the countries without earning the people's approval. You will only focus on that point and no meddling with the system. Is that okay with you? If not, I have no problem with this arrangement, Tony. Do you think I took over my world by force or something? The people love me, I am their idol and savior. They would do anything for me. Unlike you guys or anyone else, I invested a lot of my time and health in exploring the world and talking to people to teach and understand them. So you see, I don't mind doing it because I only have to act like usual and people will accept me. Well, someone has a huge ego. I would love to see you win. How long is this operation going to take? Give it a year or two, I think can manage in this time. Well, you do you, just stay within the limits, and we won't interfere with your work, Tony said, raising his arms. Naruto, if I wish to follow you, would you mind? Steve inquired, as Naruto had already agreed to the bargain without hesitation. How, like normal follow, or do you want the power to stand under me? If I accept your power, will I have to follow your every command? No, you are free, but when I need you I will call you. I will never ask you to do something wrong, trust me. I wish to follow you and accept your power, Steve whispered firmly. Naruto had previously shown him how much his power would increase, and it wasn't much. He will not become the Hulk or Thor, but he will have the ability to effortlessly combat all inferior adversaries. He'd be given chakra to compete on the same level as the old Kakashi. Your friends don't mind, he's not leaving us, so I don't have to cry about his cheating, Tony said on their behalf. Well, let's go out together for a meal to celebrate our union. How about it, or do you prefer I cook for you? I'd like to see your cooking, Strange added, and Tony agreed. Where are Bruce and Sentry? Bruce is busy with his own things for the time being, while Sentry is sleeping to recover from yesterday's ordeal, Steve replied, his face sorrowful, as his friends were upset and he couldn't help. It broke his heart to see that he had overlooked his friends' mental health difficulties. Let's invite them to join us as well. Hanging out and talking in a relaxed manner is better for your health than holding yourself inside a dark room or lab, Naruto stated enthusiastically as he rose up and focused his senses on the targets, causing them to materialize in the room. Bruce was naked since he had been taking a hot bath, and Sentry was also naked because he had pulled up everything in his sleep. Whoopsie. Naruto went to see Gwen at the university before his appointment with the Fantastic Four after having a good time and left the Avengers full and inebriated on his special wine. He also wanted to personally advise Peter of the developments, since he didn't want his friend to be concerned about some phantom foe.
He strolled in wearing casual clothes, black slacks, an orange jacket, and average boots because he didn't want to stand out, yet his aura made everyone stare. His presence was commanding and demanded attention, so until he pretended to be an assassin, he was receiving stares. MJ sat with Peter, explaining to him her new abilities since following him the day before. They were both feeling at ease and having a good time talking in a romantic setting. Peter had her in his lap and was tightly holding her.
MJ was immersed in the talk until they noticed his aura and turned to look at him. As he proceeded towards the separate section, Naruto simply acknowledged her.
Hello, Peter. I hope everything is okay with you. Everything your girl has told you is true. I was the one who bestowed powers on her, as well as Gwen. I told her about Black Cat, so if you want, my friend, you can push through and gain a harem. Finally, Harry will be the new Green Goblin, and he will assist you in combating crime from now on.
What? Why? Peter was happy that the source had been established, but the last two events surprised him. MJ was aware of his involvement with Felicia. He had enjoyed it, but there was a lot of guilt involved. He regretted succumbing to the temptation. MJ meant everything to him, and she had been there for him through thick and thin, even when her life was in danger. She deserved more, and he had considered abandoning her to free her from this perilous existence. Fortunately, Naruto gave her the abilities, and they could now always be together. But how did Harry become connected with the Green Goblins? Norman is no longer alive, and Harry would have linked him to you sooner or later, so it is best for him to grow up and become a respectable person. I showed him all Norman has done and provided him some life advice, so he should be joining you in repentance for the sins of his family. Don't turn down his offer. You need aid, and the more people you have around you, the safer you will be. You should also prioritize your connection with him and collaborate in business. You have the concepts, and he has the resources.
Hearing this, Peter was taken aback because he had been uninformed of Naruto's murdering spree. It came as a surprise to him that Norman had died suddenly. Even MJ noticed the shift in his countenance and realized he was engaged in a conversation. Peter, grow up. Norman deserves to be executed for his crimes. He was a nasty man who purposefully caused havoc. You should be aware that the only reason he was spared the death penalty was due to his business empire and connections. I won't be killing anyone for the time being since I promised the Avengers, but this world will be mine soon because they have given me the go-ahead to advertise myself and acquire public support. Once that's done, I'll wipe every criminal from this globe and show you a correct system that will permanently reduce such crimes to obscurity. Consider it and enjoy your time. Don't let it bother you, Peter. We're buddies. Naruto had already vanished from view, and these words were all that remained. Naruto only wanted to inform him of some details, thus the talk was brief and entirely one-sided. How could this have happened? Why would they consent to such a foolish idea? Is this really acceptable? Peter was completely perplexed at this point.
He couldn't believe Tony or the others would approve such an operation. Okay, maybe there is a reason for this decision, but how is he going to achieve this? He thought as he looked at MJ and remembered how Naruto had handled him. This is a tremendous project. What happened, Tiger? What would you think if Naruto took over the world? What? That's crazy. Yeah, same here, but it seems he is going to do it.
For real? Wow, no fighting involved, or is it going to be another massive battle?
He is going to win over the people. Then what's the problem? Don't you have problem with the system here and in other countries? This might be the solution to that. I trust him as he doesn't feel like a person that would harm people. Right, maybe this is something good. Oh yeah, Harry is going to join us as well. Maybe I should go and talk to Dr. Connors since we are already recruiting people to work together. I don't mind. It was sad seeing Harry waste away, so this might be a good way for him to regain his youth. I hope so, Peter muttered as he stood up and led the way to Connor's lab. He became the lizard after experimenting with a serum and going berserk a few times. After a few beatings, it had calmed down, but there was always the chance of recurrence. But with Naruto's remarks, Peter got thinking and decided they could use Oscorp resources to develop the serum and acquire full control. They could even sell the safe version to cover the company's losses. Oh yeah, Gwen became his girlfriend, MJ remarked, tapping her head because the fact had almost escaped her mind. What? He is married, you know. What? To Gwen, Peter and MJ said as they hurried in the direction Naruto had gone. How's my girl doing? Naruto asked softly as he hugged Gwen from behind as she looked over her itinerary. That surprised me. I didn't think you'd visit, Gwen whispered as she welcomed the contact. It just felt right.
I never lie to anyone, and I always keep my promises so that my word always carries weight, Naruto stated as he savored the hug. She was just so huggable, and he liked cuddling with her. He had taken a few oaths and would never back down from them. To only kill specific people. To always do good for others. To constantly be cheerful and have fun in life. Never give up hope. Never giving up on others. To point everyone in the proper direction. Naruto had already abandoned mercy, but any other pledge may apply to him. He swore to always be a brilliant beacon for the people, never to lie, never to harm an innocent person, never to lose hope, and always to be happy. These oaths also had an influence on his demeanor, so he was more optimistic than ever before and he relished it. Now that he had actual grounds for his happiness, it wasn't difficult for him and it came naturally to him. Really? How does it feel? Gwen realized she didn't know much about her companion during her absence, so she was inquisitive about him. She simply knew he wasn't human and possessed incredible abilities. He was a nice person, and it was a pleasure to be around him. It feels good because I don't mind. I am a good person. Of course, there are those who believe otherwise, but the standard definitions of good are on my side, Naruto said as he strolled by Gwen, who was holding his arm.
Hee, right, can I also do it? You can, but this oath can never be broken. Breaking it means falling into confusion and a sign of a weak personality. It was a sign of a loose character. You will begin to doubt yourself if you break these oaths, but if you keep them, they will strengthen your powers that I have bestowed upon you. Naruto said calmly. He had already experimented on death row criminals, so he knew it caused this problem and even caused the body.
You were present throughout the process and felt everything. What type of oath am I allowed to take? Gwen pondered but couldn't come up with anything she was certain of, which made her feel weak. Relax, my little fairy. You don't have to take big oaths. Not everyone can be like me, nor can I be like you. Everyone is unique and only occasionally do people have similar beliefs or an opinion. Being the same as others is not fun. You can choose to never lose hope because I am here for you. Hope is my second name, Naruto said as he held her chin, his voice soothing her spirit, and as she spent time with him the world disappeared. How do you do this? Gwen inquired, believing that he had all the answers. She couldn't even dispute that she could believe him on the hope issue. It's naturally because I believe it to be true and show that. I emit that and let others understand that I am the right person and that hope is never lost. I truly care for others, be they strangers or not. I am the king of the world and I see my citizens as my family, in the truest sense. It just happened and here we are as my words just carry my love for people. Gwen listened intently as she absorbed more facts about him. His thoughts were odd, and while several politicians had said similar things, she felt the truth in his remarks. What about when you have to choose between your real family and them? Gwen asked involuntarily, covering her mouth as her curiosity got the best of her. No one can make me choose, and to make sure that I covered all bases. But I am sure you want to hear how I actually feel. Then I would choose my family. In the end I am just a human and love is not always equal. I think that's enough about that. We should take it slow and enjoy easygoing topics or you will be stressed out. Naruto whispered into her ear as he gave a forehead kiss. Gwen felt better since she was satisfied with his response. She would have preferred a hero to save everyone, but this problem demonstrated how much he was prepared to give. If he was willing to let his family die for strangers, did he even love them? You can't love strangers more than your family, and he didn't let them die because he thought strangers were more valuable. Then it becomes much more convoluted and proceeds in a way that would render him unfit to save people since he would decide their worth. This also demonstrated to Gwen that he was not an all-knowing entity, but rather a human who loved intensely. One more question. Why did you accept my confession? Someone like you doesn't suit someone like me.
Gwen was staring at Naruto with a smile. Never say such things. I am not one of those people that look down on others. I like you because of your intelligence, beauty, kindness and my desire to save you from tragedy. I will not say that I love you the most, but I consider you more than a friend, and only the future will tell where that would go. You see, I am married to many women already and I love them all differently.
Is this real? Gwen was thrilled at first but wounded at the end when she heard those comments. I will not lie to you. I am selfish and I cannot enjoy a life with only one woman by my side. I do not wish to constrain myself when I do not have to. It is an emotional thing but also a physical thing. You need to that I can never get tired. You will never survive a true sexual experience with me if I do not anchor your mind and body. My body can go on for eternity if I wanted to indulge in lust, but I prefer these kinds of dates. Will you really love me? You won't throw me aside after breaking me." His sweet voice and peaceful look moved her.
You watched too much porn. I never let go of what is mine. I am a possessive person, Gwen. Once you decide to follow me, you will never let go, and neither will I. Kiss me, as you wish, my little spider, Naruto grumbled as he dropped his head and kissed her pink lips, Gwen melting into his embrace. As their mouths moved to taste each other, the couple was lost to the world. Gwen was in a happy place. She had kissed before, but this was beyond her wildest dreams. Nothing in her life had come close to what she was going through. Gwen would have desired to continue forever if Naruto hadn't let go. It was really lovely and cozy. It seemed as if their lips were meant to be together. You'll get used to it gradually, and this is just a taste of what's to come. Now I have to go, so enjoy your classes, Naruto said as he kissed her cheeks and walked away. Peter inquired, Gwen, where is he? Pete, she's behaving strangely, MJ said, shaking his arm and pointing to Gwen.
Gwen was smiling and caressing her lips, looking thoroughly inebriated. He left. What did he do? No matter, Gwen, he is married. I know, and I'm fine with it. His kiss was out of this world, Gwen replied, closing her eyes and reliving the thrill. What? Let's just watch over her and let her decide. She is a big girl, Pete. Dr. Reed Richards led a squad of scientific explorers known as the Fantastic Four. Reed Richards, a gifted aeronautical engineer, unwittingly created the Fantastic Four when he decided to perform an unauthorized test voyage into space using his own experimental rocket, the Marvel 1. While the rocket could have enabled travel to other star systems, Reed's financiers had lost interest. Reed's girlfriend, Susan Storm, and her younger brother, Johnny, insisted on flying with him. Reed persuaded an old friend, Ben Grimm, to pilot the rocket. Once in orbit, the rocket was hit by a wave of cosmic radiations sent by the Overseer to protect Spire from them. The spacecraft crashed back to Earth. When they emerged from the spaceship's ruins, they realized that the radiation had transformed their bodies and given them incredible new talents. Reed received the capacity to extend his body and limbs, Johnny gained the ability to fly and become consumed in controllable flames, and Sue gained the ability to bend light about her body and become invisible. Ben grew in strength and endurance, but his body was cruelly altered. He had developed a robust orange, rock-like hide. The Fantastic Four was formed when all four agreed to use their abilities to save humanity. They go by the names Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Woman, the Human Torch, and the Thing. They are not classic superheroes, but rather explorers who face whatever problems may occur as a family. The team's operations are funded by the earnings from Richard's patents and royalties. Susan was a regular lady before she became a hero. She used to live on Long Island without incident until their mother, Mary Storm, died in a car accident. Franklin Storm, their father, a doctor, was unable to save her. Despondent, he started drinking and gambling away the family riches, eventually ending himself in prison for murder after inadvertently killing his loan shark. The kids moved in with their Aunt Mary Gay Jewel Dinkins, who owned a boarding house. Susan fell in love with one of her aunt's boarders, Reed Richards, who was working on his third PhD at Empire State University when she was in her late teens. Sue later followed Richards to California, where she attempted to get into show business half-heartedly. Her life was a roller coaster with no endpoint other than Reed, and he was the only consistency in her existence. Susan was a strong, courageous, compassionate, and hardworking woman with excellent communication abilities. When the males argued, she was the one who held the squad together. She was in charge of dealing with the press. Unlike the others, she had to accept the fact that her powers were mostly useless during her early career. It was taxing on the mind, and her team had lashed out at her for it in a fit of rage. Fortunately, her powers evolved and she became the team's strongest member in terms of power, while Reed was the weakest in terms of intellect, but his brilliance more than compensated for it as he made contributions to the world that she wasn't even capable of. Even with all of their abilities, the hero's life was difficult, and they had nearly perished several times. This was a problem, but it was part of the game, so she didn't mind too much, but the fact that her love life was stagnant was intolerable. Susan was confused when she awoke after a few hours. She was disgusted and perplexed by her own behavior. She had almost cheated on a new man while forgetting about her true love because he had ignored her for some essential assignment. I need to understand that Reed is doing this for the good of people, not because he doesn't love me, Susan said to herself in the mirror. I need to be patient. What I did today was selfish. Susan attempted to erase the memory of the morning, which felt like a dream and was unlike anything she had ever experienced. I want to see him again. Susan had been in contact with him and kissed him, making it harder to forget his touch, his feelings, which were so pure and strong. Susan felt she was at a crossroads in her life. Choose Reed as her partner or tolerate this environment that was starting to make her uncomfortable as Reed delved deep into studies while forgetting about feelings. Choose Naruto for pleasant trips, to hear his adoring words, and to feel safe and at ease in his atmosphere. Never have to wonder if there was love or if it faded when he exuded it and proudly wore it. No, I was simply swayed by his emotions. Just because he loves me doesn't mean I have to reciprocate. Susan smacked her cheeks and exited the room, heading for the lab, where she hoped to see Reed and reassure her heart. But truth could not be avoided. Reed was a good man who adored Susan, but he was most passionate about his study. He would starve to death if no one informed him about food, and he actively wished he could live without bodily cravings. I'm sorry, Reed, but could I have some of your time? It will be a good opportunity to get some fresh air, Susan said, but the man didn't even glance at her, so she had to repeat herself. What? Sorry, Susan, but I am just at the last step, so maybe next time. Also send in some food, I am feeling deadly hungry. Susan stomped out, frustrated, feeling misled and hurt by his remarks. I should just leave. Then they will realize what a mess they are without me. Susan mumbled angrily as she walked down the building, not wanting to be stopped inside the elevator. Why cry because of what others think? Why consider yourself worthless when you have such an intellectual mind? Susan collided with Naruto as he came in front of her and held her tightly while whispering such words. Susan wanted to lash out, but her body was so relaxed that she couldn't help but cry into his chest and expose her difficulties. That, however, would be childish of her. It would be too simple, and she would betray her love so readily. She had worked so hard to get here. It would be wrong to give up just because a wonderful man entered her life. She let go of him and straightened her expression as she glanced up at him. Thank you for your words, but I am fine now. This is something personal, so please stay out of it. And why are you here? Susan responded calmly, but her conflicting emotions couldn't be hidden from his eyes. You don't have to blame yourself for anything, Susan. You have done a wonderful job with what you have and you have kept this team together. Once you leave, they will instantly break down. You have kept this lifestyle going, otherwise all of them would have been on the streets. Ben and Johnny don't earn anything, while Reed wastes his funds like water on research and only comes out when he is free and there is an emergency.
Isn't it your responsibility to balance their expenses, and you have the courage to fight in dangerous battles? So never downplay what you have done. You have the right to complain and consider alternatives because it is their fault here. You have already tried enough. How long will you suffer through this? Do you truly believe he can change? Does he want to change? Naruto extended his hand and touched her face, but she stepped back, and he could see the hesitation in her eyes.
His remarks struck too close to home for her to deny. Why are you doing this to me? What do you want? Susan was annoyed that he was causing her to focus on the problems. It was painful. I just want you to be happy, nothing more. It doesn't mean you have to choose me, Naruto continued, knowing she'd bring it up. I will make this family happy, so there is no need for you to interfere. If you are only here to mess around, please leave. I would advise meditating on these issues and finding a solution. I will be there if you need someone to talk to. For now, I am here to meet Reed, so please tell him, I am here for the appointment. Naruto smiled gently as he tapped her cheek and walked ahead towards the waiting area, Hinata trailing behind him. Don't be too proud of yourself. My beloved wouldn't go out of his way to always look at you if you hadn't accepted him, Hinata said as she went by, making her feel ashamed because she had assumed Naruto was there for her. Susan calmed down as a result of Naruto's mental effects, and she didn't allow those comments impact her. Why are they here, and why hasn't Reed mentioned it? He must have forgotten about it again, Susan reasoned, recalling how Reed sometimes forgot about appointments since he was engaged in his own world. In this universe, there is a balance of light and darkness. For every good, there is a bad. Humanity has been cursed with selfishness and will never be able to overcome it. A world where people turn away from the darkness and live carelessly, not realizing that this is what allows evil to thrive in this life. Evil simply requires the decent people to remain silent for it to succeed. One individual can never change much, and if there is no support, even the good will fade into the background since there is no reason to sacrifice oneself for others who do not understand and are unable to fight for their own rights. What do you want? A man with white hair and a frail frame asked as he pressed the security button beneath his desk. Death to all your bloodline, Naruto Uzumaki, also known as Hand of Death, said, his gaze fixed on all the weak points of his victim. As he heard those remarks and saw those blood-red eyes through the white blank mask, the man became terrified. Security, security, screamed the man as he struggled with the desk, got out his rifle, and began shooting the adversary, but the bullets simply vanished as they touched the man. He was like a wraith, a phantom sent to find him. Futile resistance, Naruto grumbled as he unleashed his dark aura on the man, flooding him with despair and dread as he screamed in agony. Naruto shattered the target's heart with a single tap of his hand, since his eyes were filled with panic and he had allowed his body waste to seep. Naruto left the chamber after finishing the man, and the mansion was filled with quiet and terror. Blood and organs everywhere, bodies ripped apart, guts and bones wrenched from corpses. It was a nightmare scene, and he roamed the corridors with loud strides, his footsteps the only sound in this vast space other than the slow breathing of two people. Naruto came to a halt beside a closet and opened it to find a lovely woman staring at him, accompanied by a small boy. Please, please, the woman begged, her eyes welling up with tears. Naruto stretched her hand towards her face, and when she felt some hope, the body in her hand became cold. Ah, the woman screamed in anguish and snapped as her child was slaughtered in her hug. Before she could do anything, his palm crushed her skull. As his brain matter escaped. Mission completed, Naruto said, touching a seal on his body and sending the report as his mission to annihilate a politician's family while sending a message to the rest of these people was completed. He was the Hand of Doom, and whenever he appeared, people perished in horrifying ways. He was born for this reason, the Uzumaki clan's ultimate weapon and prodigy. Naruto was born as a consequence of selective breeding for the best results and was raised to be a killer from birth. He was born and raised to be a weapon from birth. He had no parents or family, and he was nothing more than a tool for his masters. In the normal world, his name was simply a mask, but in the underworld, he was known as Shinigami or BK-205. Madarkid. Neil Shara said in horror as he observed the carnage outside the mansion, where bodies had been mangled and the premises had been destroyed. What is going on? A second case like this in a month with no leads. I need to beg for aid. Neil was a mutant in India. He was fortunate that there were not many super occurrences in his nation, but it also meant that there weren't many heroes, thus this case was out of his league, and he had no one to turn to except the Avengers. The world had gone a long way from the days when people fought magical wars. The past had been altered, and while chakra users were few in number, they ruled the planet from the shadows. Few clans had survived the previous conflict, and people had forgotten and mutated back to their old form, where chakra was not present. This alteration was pushed by Hashirama Senju and was the cause of the clan's demise because it went against the nature of the world, yet the man was insane and succeeded. Though he was able to minimize the harm in the earth in the end, he was unable to eradicate the darkness and establish ultimate peace. The clans that remained lived in luxury and ultimate power. They had minor feuds with each other when taking missions, but they didn't battle as in the past. The Uzumaki clan had been dreaded by many in the past due to their arts, and they had almost been exterminated due to their link to Hashirama. They barely survived and harbored deep resentment toward the rest of the Iwa and Kumo clans. This led them down a dark path, and Naruto was the outcome of their deeds, but he was not alone, as they formed a team for him. He was known as the Hand of Death, and his team was known as the Hive since they had no emotions and simply obeyed orders without saying anything. Each clan lived around their territory, but their primary headquarters was usually on certain islands, while the Uzumaki territory was in a pocket dimension that could be visited through various areas in Asia and North America that were part of its domain. They controlled various legal enterprises as well as politics and science, but they also focused on their core business, death dealing, as they had done since the beginning. It was in their genes, and they couldn't deny their drive to instill violence in others. They could easily control men with their powers, but now that mutants and so many powers had developed, it would be caught and they would be in trouble because there now existed people that could rival and even surpass their powers. They had learned how little they were over the generations and attempted to push over their boundaries. Hashirama and Madara were legendary, but they had long been exceeded, and the shinobi hungered to surpass the Sage of Six Paths, as he was the apex of their race to them. After extensive research, this generation was given that honor since they had the capacity to surpass the Sage, whereas the previous generation had already stopped yet acquired power comparable to the Sage. KG-001, your next mission has arrived. Naruto was meditating in the room of darkness, where no light could enter and the atmosphere was oppressive and smelled of the evil world. It was the ideal location for dark arts training. Naruto opened his eyes and rose up to face his subordinate KG-005, better known as Yamato, a young guy with brown hair and a Senju clan product of DNA splicing. Eradicate Peter Parker and Mary Jane, and frighten Harry Osborn, Naruto read, and the paper burned to ash, leaving a seal on his fingers. Eradicate Peter Parker and Mary Jane, and frighten Harry Osborn, Naruto read, and the paper burned to ash, leaving a seal on his fingers. Yamato didn't say anything else since small conversation was not in their programming. They were direct and efficient. He strolled away with a blank stare towards the squad's training area, waiting for additional orders. As Yamato walked away, Naruto was enveloped in a dark aura that hid his equipment. It was a simple dark-looking armor that was custom manufactured for him and outperformed everyone, even the elders, in terms of quality. Naruto moved outside the room because teleportation was impossible without authorization within the Uzumaki stronghold and he had not been given such orders, so he walked towards the teleportation zone. The teleportation zone existed within the warriors region, where only clan warriors lived, and even they were split into ranks based on power. People moved out of the way of Naruto as he proceeded towards his objective, and many people avoided even looking at him. I can't believe such an abomination is permitted to live here, says the author. Shish. Do you want to be murdered? Man, I wish Lord Naruto would give us that look. I wish he'd teach me. He's incredible. Naruto's reaction had always been divided. Some despised his existence since he was unlike a human and committed atrocities without a trace of emotion, which was obvious to them because an Uzumaki can detect emotions. While the next generation looked up to him, he was the shining star and their inspiration. It was for this reason that such a weapon was permitted to be carried by ordinary people. Naruto, please stop. Naruto had entered the structure with the teleportation circles for various places but had come to a halt when he heard the voice. He didn't stop because he was upset or anything, but because it was in his nature to listen to his superiors, and this woman was on that list. Cheel was a beautiful and graceful woman with intelligent eyes that stared at him with concern. She was part of the higher echelon of society in the Uzumaki clan since she could see the death of someone close to her. She would chat to him and give him instructions before most high-level operations. Naruto came to a halt and approached Cheel, who motioned him to a private room. How are you feeling today? Cheel inquired gently, holding his hand and forcing him to sit on the sofa. I am doing well. How about you? Will there be any death in this mission? Naruto asked, his face blank. Naruto spoke these words without meaning. They were just encoded into him and imposed onto him by Cheel. When she heard such a tone, it wounded her. Cheel worked tirelessly to assist Naruto in becoming a human, but it was an impossible feat given how rigorous the clan is with their weapon. Naruto would strike her down if she did something too direct, according to the defense protocol. Cheel was beaming. I am doing very well as there will be no death involved. Here, eat this, I made it personally. While Cheel glanced at him, Naruto removed his mask and ate the cupcake. How was it? Below the nutritious requirements of this body. Cheel gave him a bland look and laughed, as if he was cracking a joke, but in reality he was merely answering what was within his coding. I will do better next time, so come back safely. Yes, Naruto said as he slid back the mask and walked away, Cheel close following. Master, how could you let this happen to your son? This seems unattainable. I'm losing faith that we'll ever be able to save him. Is there anyone who can decipher this code and show him the way? Cheel tightened her fist as she remembered her master and begged for a miracle as strange occurrences occurred everywhere. Dad. Why do I need a bodyguard, especially these guys? They look damn creepy with those red eyes, Harry Osborn said, standing in his father's office. Norman Osborn, one of the world's most intellectual and wealthy individuals, was not feeling particularly powerful today. He'd been notified that assassins were on their way to him. This wouldn't have meant much if they were ordinary folks, but it was one of the old and powerful. I should never have bothered with that clan. Even if I plead for mercy, crazy bastards won't let go without leaving a message, Norman thought as he looked at his beloved son, his own family. We have no choice. I made a mistake that could cost your life, so deal with it for a while until I can find a solution, and stay away from your friends as they might get involved, Norman said calmly, not wanting to make his child panic. Harry was used to seeing his father in a commanding position, but this time he sensed something was off, and hearing his remarks made him fear that his friends' lives would be jeopardized as a result of them. All right, father, I'll stay home, Harry remarked as he walked away, planning to bring both MJ and Peter to his house to shelter them from the storm. Spider-Man, your life is in danger. Call the Avengers or your city will be bathed in blood, a voice inside Spidey's head said, as a horrific scene of despair was painted in his thoughts. He was sweating profusely as he clung to a structure and knew what that sight looked like. It was one of the crime scenes that had made international headlines. Why me? Peter wondered since he didn't recall dealing with such a maniac, but then he remembered. Harry. Peter reduced it down to two possibilities. Someone after the Osborns or someone hired a monster to kill him. I'll have to call him, Peter reasoned as he took out his phone. Sir, I need your assistance. Death is looming over my head, Peter grumbled. What have I said about being so cryptic? Learn to get better. Good. Now do better on the next call as this was too direct. It is serious. For a brief while, the call became silent. It's the mysterious killer abroad, he is coming here. Are you sure? I got a warning from some unknown entity but I am not willing to take a risk as I can't handle this problem. I will be there in an hour and we will discuss our strategy, Tony said calmly, aware of the impending danger and relieved that Peter was being so responsible. In just few months, he's learned a lot. Shisui, why warn the human about the threat? Itachi Uchiha, one of the Uchiha clan's greatest warriors at the age of 25, inquired of his partner and best friend. The two stood atop the bridge, watching the traffic below. It's a gut feeling, Itachi. I think the threat might be too much, so thought of using the Avengers for something useful. This way we can analyze the Uzumaki clan's unknown fighter and the Avengers. Shisui didn't turn to face him. Itachi nodded as he took in the words. The notion was plausible, but it jeopardized their reputation by making it appear as if the Uchiha clan was terrified of someone on their personal land. I trust you, Itachi said without hesitation because he preferred peace and would prefer to avoid any deaths, therefore he didn't mind the so-called reputation. This is why I like you so much, bro. Anyone else and they'd start crying about my reputation, my honor, Shisui joked. While the two were on the lookout, Naruto arrived at the city after Tony had already arrived, accompanied by some assistants. Plans had been made, and the necessary people were safe. Naruto blended with the crowd, not standing out, as he investigated the area for a real-time update on the situation and targets. He discovered the targets at Norman Osborn's home, along with some unexpected guests. Naruto took another look around to check if there was anything more before walking away into the shadows. The target has contacted Tony Stark and is under his protection, says the source. Do I continue now that the mission has been revealed? What will happen to Tony Stark? Naruto communicated with the headquarters in order to get orders and deliver information. He also needed permission to deal with Tony Stark because the man was well connected and not someone Naruto could destroy as collateral or even significantly injure according to rules. If you complete the mission, authorization will be granted. You may treat Tony Stark as best you can without killing him or ruining his psyche. Affirmative, Naruto accepted his orders without inquiry. As he examined the entire home one more time, his eyes pierced through the huge distance and obstructions. The mission began quietly, and the entire region around the mansion was blanketed in his power and became his realm. The surface appeared normal, but the inside was a different beast as Peter and the other witnessed the world being plunged into darkness. They could hear hideous wails, and the sky was filled in horrifying nightmares and horror screams. It appears our guest has arrived, Tony mumbled. He hadn't expected the enemy to be so flamboyant, which worried him because it suggested the opponent was highly confident. Tony pointed his blaster at the sky from the window and saw it flicker out as he came closer. I guess I can't waste power trying to leave, Tony reasoned as he approached the children and prepped his defense system. Naruto strode into the grounds outside the mansion as if he owned it. Before they could say anything, the guards had been chopped into pieces and lazily pulled apart. People perished everywhere he went, and the land was contaminated as the darkness affected it. The soil and nature died, as did the air, which was tainted with death chemicals that could harm weak humans. Naruto strolled up the path towards his targets, allowing them to hear the despairing screams of those they couldn't help and even showing them the photographs. Tony couldn't even intervene because he couldn't leave the room, and he watched as his attacks were easily neutralized. Even yet, the man did not give up and continued to research this mysterious potential in the hopes of getting a chance now or later. As Naruto approached, he encountered an unexpected circumstance. Inside the mansions, one of the guards charged at him. It was odd, yet Naruto was unaffected and attacked as normal, but the target did not die. Naruto stopped and looked at the material. Wolverine from the X-Men, calling HQ. Taking possession of the adamantium prototype. Adamantium was one of the items Naruto had been programmed to obtain for the clan. The Uzumaki clan had already accumulated vibranium but had been unable to obtain this masterpiece due to its location in Uchiha territory. It was time for the Uzumaki clan to conquer the globe and rule over all shinobi, so they decided to test the waters and see how the clan grew. Hey you crazy fuck, have a taste of this. Logan ran for Naruto, but Naruto didn't care about his words or testing his might against the legendary metal as he resumed his movement while Logan was eaten by the nothingness. Logan couldn't even fight his way out of the abyss, a pocket universe created by Naruto. Damn, I hate these fuckers so much, Logan grumbled as he gazed at the dreary and dark environment he had landed up in. It reminded him of the underworld, and thankfully, he had pressed the emergency button before attacking the foe, alerting the X-Men to the danger. Logan was taken down, and I can't find his signal, Tony grumbled as he peered at the door and the attacker approaching them. We are being looked down upon, Tony thought as the foe wore modest armor, a short sword in one hand, and a white mask to protect his face. Because their safety was more essential than the house, Tony unleashed a full power beam on Naruto. Tony expected Naruto to stop it, but the man walked right past it and attacked him. Naruto sliced Tony many times before he could respond, fully breaking his armor and grabbing him by the throat. How are you doing, Mr. Stark? Naruto said as he gazed into his eyes, as Peter and the others looked on in dread, frozen by the terrifying atmosphere and aura. As he heard the voice, Tony felt his air become caught in his lungs and his blood become icy. He'd never been so terrified in his life. It was absurd, and no amount of expertise could have prepared him to face such a monster who used such tactics. A price for folly, Mr. Stark. Please use your logic board next time, Naruto mumbled as he hurled Stark towards the window, shadows swooping down to break his limbs. I thought I was going to die, Tony grumbled as he crashed on the ground, while Naruto fought off the mystery intruder. Scarlet Witch, Naruto gathered the knowledge, but it was ineffective because the clan didn't have much on magic because the Sorcerer Supreme was a formidable foe. Sorry, it was just very difficult to analyze his spatial powers, Wanda grumbled as she emerged from the chamber, floating in the air. She needed to examine the spatial powers since otherwise she wouldn't be able to assault Naruto and flee. Wanda had no idea it would be so difficult, and she learned a lot as she tested her limits with this endeavor. Why don't you go get lost now, Ghost? Wanda said as she blasted Naruto with a charged assault while shielding everyone else behind a barrier. Naruto easily dodged the move as expected, but found himself dragged to the grounds outside the mansion by the attack. Unknown adversaries present, presumed Uchiha clan executives. Naruto spoke with the HQ as he landed without a scratch and peered at Wanda with his eyes that bore into the soul, stripping the target of all secrets. Once the mission is completed, give the adamantine sample to the lab. Wanda also thought the strike had missed and that her second attack had already been fired, but he was injured by the initial attack. Reality had been changed, he said. What kind of powerful being was supporting us, and could I have defeated this beast? Tony mumbled as the world returned to normalcy. Wanda, did you take him down? No, he left, Wanda said as she teleported back to her house to process what had transpired. Shisui inquired. What do you think? About? Itachi asked as they went through the streets of New York. Could you have beaten the ghost? Not enough information. He was unlike the hot-blooded fighters and efficient to the fault. I don't think I could have beaten him. He wasn't serious and was covered in seals, Shisui remarked solemnly. What? Just kidding. Let's celebrate with a party, Shisui said as he dragged Itachi to a nightclub. Mr. Stark. Peter yelled as Tony dropped to the ground, his legs exploding into a bloody mass. How are you feeling, Mr. Stark? The blood hung in the air, creating a message. Tony gritted his teeth as he fought to stifle his screams of anguish. Fortunately, Peter swiftly administered anesthetics. Bastard, I thought we had him, Tony reflected, regretting not having Wanda check them all before leaving. Stop crying, Tony whispered as Peter hugged him with a hurt and guilty expression. MJ and Harry aren't responding, Peter said, his body still trembling from terror as he stared Tony in the eyes. Tony turned to face the children, who were fallen on the floor, shivering and screaming. Fucker. I'm not going to let him get away next time, Tony swore as he gripped his radio to alert his backup suit and inform the crew. A facility under the ownership of the Uzumaki clan sat beneath an island not far from New York, hidden from prying eyes. I can't believe it. A human actually remained sane after being tortured by our monster, the lab's chief said as he examined an unconscious Logan and checked his signals. You can stay for the day just in case, and you don't have to wait for any response from HQ. We sent the information to the Uchiha clan as a test, the head stated, looking at the weapon because he would not move without instructions for some time before some protocol took over. Affirmative, Naruto said as he went towards the entrance, ready to defend the research facility from any threat. BK. I authorize you to operate with full power, Naruto said before leaving, and the seals on his body gleamed with a sinister brightness before dimming. Boss. Do you think it is safe? He is just a puppet. What are you afraid of? Get to work before I make your dream come true. The head could understand their concerns because Naruto was the ideal weapon, having surpassed the power of the fictitious Sage of Six Paths. His physical strength alone, according to data on his present status, was enough to fracture the moon at full strength and could blow the planet with his hardest move. This was excellent news, but it was also a source of concern because they were living on the verge of disaster if the weapon gained sentience or if someone took over his body. That could never happen. We have the best talents and have spent thousands of years researching it. The head shook the notion away and returned to work as they were investigating the best metal for their new line of weapons. Vibranium was insufficient. The X-Men had been informed of what had occurred and were working feverishly to save their teammate. Because the Uzumaki had not encountered Charles, they lacked the necessary defense against his searching powers. It was difficult enough to incapacitate him, but Charles was able to locate Logan and quickly dispatch the strongest members. Take this task seriously and cautiously. The foe has spatial powers and is extremely powerful, so Jean, Cyclops, and Rogue will distract him while Nightcrawler and Kitty will rescue Logan, Charles informed as he demonstrated the outcome of what happened. Professor, we will return safely, Cyclops said as the leader, leading them to the jet. Hey guys, what made you so serious? Logan was apprehended again, but this time the guy is extremely dangerous, Kitty said as Iceman greeted them on the way. Can I come? Cyclops didn't have to think about it and just nodded, you will support us in blocking the threat. Iceman smiled and trailed behind, excited, while the rest were terrified, especially Jean, who had a different sense about this assignment. What is this internal feeling? I'll talk to Charles once we finish, Jean resolved as she boarded the plane. While all of this was going on, Minato Uzumaki was sitting in the training room of his home in the Uzumaki clan's main city. A mansion with the greatest of the Uzumaki clan was given to him as a reward for giving them the perfect weapon, along with many other presents. Minato had been young and blind, and he had never imagined his tribe would do this to his child, and now all he had were regrets. Minato was fortunate in that the female who was a perfect fit for him in terms of having the best children was someone he fell in love with. Kushina Uzumaki was the clan lord's daughter, endowed with the advanced adamantine chains and an aptitude for barriers. Minato and Kushina were both among the clan's strongest combatants, known to outsiders as the Yellow Flash and Red Death. Minato pierced his right leg with his dagger, which was cursed with the ability to increase pain. It was his method of punishing himself for not having anyone in this massive estate or even considering having another child. He and Kushina had been compelled to train, punish, and perfect their child without ever teaching him anything about being a person. They were compelled to watch as their bloodchild lived as if he were a machine with no thoughts of his own. Minato had never felt so helpless before, but he was compelled to suffer this abomination or face death with no outcome. If everything had gone perfectly, Naruto would have married one of my friend's gorgeous girlfriends, or even Shion, that unfortunate young girl, Minato reflected as he remembered his rivals from the Yamanaka and Hyuga clans. Sigh. Minato rose up, relieved that things were finally getting back to normal. This clan had gone insane and would go to battle. This was their greatest chance to liberate Naruto from this curse. My child, wait for this pathetic father of yours to save you, Minato thought as he couldn't even express these thoughts because he didn't trust anything, including the walls, which could hear. Threats from the skies are arriving, Naruto said as he opened his eyes. Mutants, capture them. It is time to begin on these alien species, stated Amato, the chief of the outside research center, as he adjusted his glasses. Affirmative, Naruto grumbled as he vanished and reappeared in the sky before the plane. Dark hands grabbed the X-Men and pulled them through the plane before they could react. Cyclops didn't wait for the antagonist to speak or act before unleashing the strongest beam ever on Naruto, accompanied by Iceman, who split himself apart and froze the space around Naruto. Rogue absorbed Ms. Marvel's hand and flew with her absorbed power, attacking with power blasts. Everyone collapsed as the dark hands faded and the world became dark, which was part of the knowledge they received, so Jean reacted quickly as her powers were reacting to Naruto. Go quickly! Jean exclaimed as she tossed Kitty and Nightcrawler into the lake below. Rogue approached Naruto, forcing him to focus on the threat as he received the order to let the couple go and battle these mutants in a calm manner so they could record their capabilities. Naruto let the weak individuals pass through his domain and grabbed Rogue's hand, holding both of her hands and staring into her eyes. Rogue was surprised by the reply and smirked, "Got you." "Rogue, get away from him," Jean yelled, her pulse racing. Rogue ignored her warning and sucked on Naruto's power, which he let flow because he was capable of resisting such a feeble attempt. Rogue's body began convulsing as a drop of power penetrated her body, indicating that it had come into contact with something wicked. A-H-H-H-H. Rogue shrieked in terror as her body burned from every cell, unable to think clearly. Her body was full of power, but it was destroying her from the inside out. Rogue, Iceman fired at Naruto while Jean assisted Rogue before she burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha, Rogue exclaimed as she flew above the atmosphere and began bombing Naruto with massive elemental beams while shutting down the spatial barrier. Cyclops watched the event and knew Rogue was in anguish, but he couldn't help himself. Support Rogue, we need to hold him down. Naruto blocked all of their assaults to test their abilities while attacking the other three with a chakra slash with his Soul Reaper sword, the strongest blade with immense yin, darkness, strength. Cyclops was injured and flew to the ground as he blocked the attack with his beam, while Bobby was sent flying far before he could stop as his body bled from the damage. Who are you? What do you want from us? Have we not suffered enough? Jean was the only one who could resist his onslaught and fight him back. Jean's emotions were rising as she remained in the terror zone and saw her pals become immobilized. The foe didn't respond and instead shot a ball of rotating energy her way, which she blocked with her barrier because she couldn't evade it. He's having fun with us. We can't win. Jean was losing hope as she realized they were being tested and there was no way out. No no no. Jean yelled as she ran towards Naruto and chose to attack his mind, her psychic energy glowing a dark purple with a phoenix behind her as she dove into his subconscious. The seal that was supposed to keep out the finest of the greatest and couldn't even be shattered by Uchiha, Yamanaka, or Charles had been broken. Even though it was only the first level, it was supposed to be impossible for anyone on the globe based on the Uzumaki's data and the breach warnings that blared throughout the HQ, sending everyone into a frenzy as they activated the defense procedure. Obliterate with no regard, Jean entered the mind anticipating a regular or abnormal scene, but the scene was a whole horror show. She had no idea what kind of man could be so twisted as to define surface consciousness in such a way. Jean didn't have time to explore this level to better understand her adversary, so she pressed on to go deeper in order to incapacitate him, but she was stopped. Jean got wary when she saw the man without the disguise, his true features. He had golden hair and blue eyes, and he was about the same age as them, so around 22. Jean found his appearance appealing, but it was his eyes that drew her attention. He could finally tell the true from the phony. They look unnatural, Jean thought as she saw the glare, which reminded her of the soulless robots she had fought countless times. Please stop this madness. Jean couldn't go on as she felt the world vibrate and the sense of danger increase. Her breath became caught, and the foe's eyes glowed a lethal red. I can't allow this. Jean clenched her teeth and pushed her strength, feeling so full of energy that she appeared to be about to blow from overcharging. Jean was coated in energy, which struggled against Naruto's whole might. She pushed past him with difficulty and plunged further into consciousness, while the island had vanished and death was spreading in all directions on the outside. Rogue had lost control of her body and had been hit once, causing her entire body to nearly burst from the impact. She was on death's bed, while Iceman was entirely annihilated by flames hotter than the sun. Jean explored the deeper world and discovered a young Naruto sitting in the darkness with lifeless eyes. He was expressionless and just gazed. Jean was taken aback by what she was experiencing and witnessing. The person who was bringing them pain had been through experiences she could never comprehend. What kind of monster would do this? Jean asked, covering her mouth as she approached the youngster. Will assisting him make a difference in the situation? Jean hurried as she sensed the adversary approaching from behind. Hello, little one. Could you help this big sis? Jean asked sweetly as she picked up the youngster, her anxieties and dread hidden. Danger, danger. A warning cry rang out throughout the universe as Naruto emerged and pulled out his blade. Activating Starbreaker. The sword slashed towards Jean with blinding speed, exceeding the speed of light numerous times, using the powers of space, time, and death. Whatever you are, please save me. Jean knew she was going to die if that hit her. Jean screamed as she heard the voice of a massive bird that engulfed her in its radiance and shielded her from the attack. The assault upset the beast, causing it to growl angrily at Naruto while its light flickered. The attack appeared to have eaten away at its existence. I need to do something with the kid immediately, Jean thought as she raised him up and gazed into his eyes. Sorry, but I need to do this for my friends, Jean said as she poured her emotions into the child, who blinked, looked Jean in the eyes, and then began crying. The universe began to change and fluctuate, and the cry of Kid Naruto and the clash of monsters sent Jean back into reality. On the outside, the adult Naruto was crying, which caused ripples across the planet, causing it to break and perish slowly. It sounded sirens all throughout the world, but it was an opportunity for Jean and her crew to flee, and she hurried without looking back because this was only a temporary situation. Her body was breaking down as a result of the injury and power swings, and she was barely hanging on. Jean hurriedly grabbed Cyclops and Rogue, and when she couldn't find Bobby, she dashed to the lab where the attackers were occupied and saved Kitty, Nightcrawler, and Logan. I will save you, Naruto, Jean assured, feeling sympathy for the boy and responsibility for instilling feelings in him. Today was certainly something. I never thought someone could break through the defenses, Amato said as he smoked to calm his anxieties while seeing Naruto get enveloped in darkness and seals that shut down his inner thoughts. The child's mind was being bound as the coding invaded his spirit, erasing all outside influence and reverting him to a blank slate. Master, there is good news. Cheel approached a waterfall, where a woman with long red hair could be seen floating in the midst, meditating. Kushina Uzumaki opened her eyes, which were filled with sorrow and pain. She had lost her radiance a long time ago and could only wallow in self-pity until something changed. Cheel. What could it be? The war started. No, Naruto cried. Naruto actually cried. Cheel exclaimed, her eyes welling up with tears of joy, even if it wasn't her fault. How? Those seals make it so that he has nothing that makes him human. He shouldn't even be able to cry, Kushina said nervously as she raced near Cheel. Someone infiltrated his mind and injected emotions into his consciousness, Cheel continued, waiting for Kushina to respond. I see, we need this girl. She might be the only one who can save him, and we need to hurry or else she will be assassinated. The seals should be updated and stronger now that they have understood her powers, Kushina said quietly, her joy and hope bursting through her. It was something she had wished for so long, but now that it was here, she wasn't sure if she should attempt because they might end up dead at his hands. The HQ was buzzing with activity since something dangerous had happened today that may have resulted in their deaths. The weapon of flesh had nearly wrecked the world around them, killing millions and shifting lands. Within minutes, so much damage to infrastructure and human life had occurred that many had nearly committed suicide in despair as a result of the voice. Many villains and heroes had gathered at the scene after Naruto had returned to HQ and the research lab had been relocated. The Fantastic Four were among those who arrived on the scene and were scouting the area to discover what had transpired. What do you think happened here? Johnny wondered as he soared about the region, finding nothing. It was also uncomfortable flying in this location, and he had to avoid those gaps in reality. I can tell it was someone with the ability to control spatial forces and death, which leads me to the new threat that Tony shared with us, Reed responded as he reviewed his report on environmental activities. What should we do? Susan wondered, looking at the reports with concern. It had been a difficult task to safeguard the inhabitants of the city, and they had seen numerous deaths since it was beyond their power to deal with such a wide spectrum of threats. We will consult with the Avengers about capturing this threat, or else we may be witnessing the end of the world, Reed said, his thoughts having turned negative after witnessing so many deaths. Even Johnny, who was normally upbeat, wasn't in the mood to joke around with Ben and make fun of the enemy. Forces of darkness were also watching the situation as the crew left. Dr. Doom had also checked the region. He was quite interested in this power and felt excited. Magneto felt the same way when he saw how it hurt humanity while just marginally impacting mutants, who were the weakest members of the species. The Shinobi forces had also spotted Ground Zero, and Minato considered working with Inoichi and his daughter to deepen the hole that Jean had created. The Uzu Lord had personally arrived at the Uzumaki clan's headquarters to tackle the problem. Asura Uzumaki, the current lord and Kushina's father, was enraged at his men's incompetence. Amato, do you have any excuse for this? Asura asked as Naruto lay on the table with devices hooked to him. It was beyond our expectations that there was someone that could break the natural mental barrier of BK along with the protection from the armor. Is that your excuse? No, it was my fault because I gave the orders, but through it, we discovered a source of power greater than anything that had ever existed, even greater than the so-called 10 Tales of Legends, a beast that made our weapon's energy levels appear like a drop in the ocean. Our device could easily sense power twice the size of the sun, but it broke within seconds as it grew too quickly. We are lucky that the woman retreated, or we would have lost the weapon completely, Amato replied, displaying reports from their devices in Naruto's mind. Asura seemed to calm down as he read the reports and smiled, interesting, good enough. Amato, create better adamantine and focus on finding a way to capture this beast. As you wish, my lord, Amato understood what was going to happen. Asura rose up and commanded the men to pour their chakra into Naruto. These men were the clan's elders, and every one of them possessed chakra that exceeded even Hashirama of Prime. 10 people's chakra pooled inside Naruto and recharged the seals, expanded his strengths, and installed new skills. The most formidable mental barrier. You must retreat as soon as you sense the woman, leaving everything behind. Asura instituted a new rule that no one could change but him. Bring the mask, Asura mumbled as the procedure was completed. Fuck that old bastard, yelled Kushina as she shattered everything in the room. Kushina, calm down, Minato whispered from behind her. Calm down. Calm down. How? The scum just increased the difficulty to insane levels. The armor was bad enough, but now the mask plus the sword and even Naruto's own power to use a mental technique. Even the girl can't do anything anymore as she would die before she could even pierce through the third barrier. Kushina shoved him against the wall and looked into his eyes in search of optimism. Kushina, we don't have to finish this all at once. We can take our time and study the barriers before removing them. Plus, from her data, there was no mention of such power, so we need to act fast or else she might be assassinated, so let us not lose hope like this. Minato grabbed her and kissed her to ease her fears. Kushina could only hope for a miracle, as even this plan appeared to have little possibility of success. I will trust you. The atmosphere at the Xavier Institute was somber as they mourned their friend's death and prayed for Rogue's recovery. Jean sat alongside Rogue and Cyclops in the infirmary while they were still unconscious, her mind racing with ideas. She couldn't concentrate on anything because of Bobby, her new abilities, and Naruto. Jean, you don't have to do this alone, Charles murmured as he entered the infirmary, prompting Jean to stand. Professor, Jean mumbled, his face anguished. Talk to me, and we'll find a solution together, Charles murmured as he took her hand in his and forced her to sit. I want to know about this power that has awakened within me. I don't know what it is, but it feels like it has its own will. It appears very dangerous, but I need it if I am to fight such threats. That's not all. I believe I need it to save that child. The enemy who battled us was a human who had his humanity taken away, and we need power to save him or else he will continue to be a menace to humanity, Jean continued as she relayed what she saw in her head. Charles remained quiet as he absorbed all of the facts. This was a case he had never encountered before. He had witnessed indoctrinated persons, but complete programming was something far worse, as it appeared to be done from birth. You don't have to fear or embrace power. Just don't let it control or change you, and try communicating with it if you believe it has a conscience. As for the child, I don't mind if you want to save him, but put it on hold, Charles murmured, holding her hands. When she heard movement, Jean nodded and turned back, saying, "Rogue, please stay still." Rogue had awoken and was attempting to move, but she was unable to make any large motions and collapsed down. I saw it. I saw how they control him. They put seals on him, and these things are like codes on his soul and body. His name is Naruto, and his memory resets every day except for the names of the people he must obey, which are engraved inside his soul along with everything else. They're undoubtedly going to send someone after us since you touched their weapon, Rogue mumbled as she closed her eyes, which stung as much as everything else. The information scared the pair since they had not anticipated how hazardous it could become. I should have expected this. I'll talk to the Avengers while you two rest, Charles stated as he began to move. I've grown accustomed to the quiet. Rogue didn't say anything else, but she couldn't stop thinking about that universe of darkness and nothingness. I could never imagine such a thing, but now that I've had a taste of it, I almost broke. Rogue thought as she remembered Naruto and the black energy that stayed within her system, thankful that Carell Danvers' persona fought against the menace within her mind. I really don't want to face him, Rogue mumbled, and Jean sensed her terror in those words, which made her realize that saving him would be selfish because it would end everyone's death. While such events were taking place on Earth, beings of power dwelt on a distant planet hidden from humanity, and they were beginning to awaken from a dream. The sanctuary was a planet the size of Jupiter where the tailed beasts lived in peace and harmony. The planet met all of their needs, and they lived happily ever after, but quiet for too long causes boredom in beings that are used to action. Kurama, I have some bad news. Sand surged from the earth, becoming the huge beast Shukaku. Kurama had been sleeping in a clearing of a huge forest that reminded him of Konoha when he heard his brother's voice. Didn't I say not to interfere with the humans? Kurama grumbled as he towered over his brother. He was the strongest of the lot, and his bulk reflected that. You know I'm not like you guys. I can stay this way forever, so you should have expected this, but let's get back to the important stuff. Our vessels from the alternate future are blissfully residing with their families. Good. Except Naruto, I can't find him. There is no trace of his existence, his chakra filled with hope and kindness that could be sensed across the world is gone. Shukaku continued with a solemn voice. I hope you're not joking. Kurama rose up and stared at Shukaku as the atmosphere shifted due to the beast's pressure. Do you think I'd make a joke about Naruto? He is the one person we all care about. He is like a brother to us. He is the only person who reminded us of father and he is nowhere to be seen. Did we make the right choice by abandoning the world? Shukaku was worried because he felt they had just abandoned their brother and their father's chosen one. Previously, the Sorcerer Supreme had given them knowledge of many futures. They had witnessed the results and had grown close to Naruto because he was always on their side. The chosen one, the world's hero. But it appears that the majority of futures resulted in a sad childhood without parents and death at a young age, so they picked the one thing that negated all futures. With the guidance of the Sorcerer Supreme, the tailed beast relocated away from the planet and established a home on the outside of the solar system. They had lived here for 1,000 years and had grown so powerful that their earlier forms were no match for an elephant. Shut up. Do you think I don't think of these things? I could only pray that he was happy as our presence could once again destroy any peace. We may be powerful but the people down there have grown stronger as well and there are too many of them plus they can always seal us after outnumbering us. We can't harm the world and the scum down there can never be trusted without Naruto ruling them. Kurama slapped Shukaku for bringing attention to him to crash. The remainder of the siblings were drawn in by the deafening roar and the awakening of Kurama's might. We're going home. Naruto needs us, Kurama said, using the device provided to him by the sorcerer to call him or his successor. The following day, all of the Avengers gathered to discuss the new threat. They'd had information from the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, so they were up to date on everything. Why think about it so much? It's just a weapon, so it's better to seal it away rather than try to save it. That would only cost us our lives, and I'm not willing to fight for a machine, Tony replied as the room fell silent after everything was placed on the table. Tony, shut up. Never speak like that again. How could you abandon a child? Or did you not hear that it was a child inside? Steve was already in a bad mood due to the news, and his remarks fueled the fire. So you want our people to die in the hope of saving the kid? Did you not hear how dangerous the kid is? None of us have the capability of fighting him. Tony battled back as he displayed news of the devastation done. Wanda remained silent because she couldn't say anything because the man was too strong for her. Why not call Strange? Hawkeye wondered, as he couldn't stand the thought of his buddies bickering. Nobody had thought of that because it had been a long time since they had actually worked with the man. I'll call him, Tony said as he coughed and dialed his phone. I knew you'd call, Tony, but I'm kinda busy with another world-ending threat right now, so I won't be able to come. Don't worry, I'm sending 9 guests from far away who can help you with the task, Strange mumbled, and Tony saw the room light up as 9 people appeared. The phone conversation was cut short, and Tony turned to face the crowd, saying, Relax, these are our new allies. We are the previous guardians of this world, and we are willing to help in exchange for finding our friend, Kurama grumbled as he stood in front of the others. What can you do? Steve said as Wanda gazed at them with her mouth agape, sensing their overwhelming might. Thor, too, felt it, his warrior instinct alerting him of worthy challengers. I can destroy this city with a single flick of my hand, control all elements, heal people, and even power up my allies. Good enough, now who do we have to take down? Kurama mocked the human. Wow. This guy's the whole package, Hawkeye exclaimed. We're trying to catch this man, Tony said as he displayed the image and the rest of the data. They couldn't take their eyes off Naruto as the screens floated in front of them. Naruto, where is he? Kurama exclaimed, holding Steve and looking into his eyes to get an answer. We don't know, but he will definitely appear because he is his clan's weapon, Thor said, placing his hand on Kurama's shoulder. Kurama let the man go, unable to believe what he was witnessing. Naruto was transformed into a weapon of the worst kind with no humanity from the start, and he killed people all around him for many years. Brother, relax. We will save him, Yuki said as he hugged Kurama from behind. The Avengers could tell from the leader's emotions that their target was the person they were looking for. It appears we have the same target, so I believe we won't have any problems, Tony said, having altered his mind because Strange was a trustworthy individual, and if he thought they could assist him, he was willing to go through with it. We will do our best to capture him, but I need to meet this girl. If she has the ability to help him, then we need to see how we can help her get better, Kurama mumbled, knowing Naruto might capture them to use as power. The Avengers now had powerful allies, but they could all sense that they were being looked down on, which they could only ignore for the time being. 2 people could be seen battling in a dimension filled with nothing but sand. One was a woman with long blue hair coated in bright green energy, while the other was a man with black hair clad in purple ethereal armor. Did you hear? Mumbled Sasuke Uchiha, the strongest Uchiha ever to live as he fought his adversary. What? Hinata Hyuga, the Tenseigan's heir, said calmly as she adjusted the direction of Sasuke's slash and attacked with her right hand. As he received the news, Sasuke stopped the move with a chakra shield and stepped aside to relax. We now know the appearance of the Uzumaki clan's weapon, which can be seen as a challenge because they showcased him so clearly, Sasuke mumbled as he cancelled the compressed Susanoo because they had been fighting all day. Even if he is strong, our team can take him down. We are invincible as a group. Hinata landed and took out her bottle to drink some energy drink. They were part of a 5-person team that included Ino Yamanaka, Hinata, Sasuke, Gaara, and Lee. They were among the best 10 in existence and had been working together for a decade, so their teamwork was extraordinary. Then do you think we should accept the mission to capture him? Sasuke suggested, testing her. No, we'll wait for more information. Let others test him out, and they'll do a good job, Hinata said, and both realized that the heroes would go after Naruto without rest because he had done more damage than any villain before and without any opposition. We really think alike. How about becoming my bride and having the perfect child? Whispered Sasuke, chuckling. As he finished those sentences, he had to evade a golden beam. Keep dreaming. I would never accept you as my husband. Plus you already have 2. Do you really think I would accept that? Just kidding. Relax you cherry girl. I'll tell Sakura, Hinata said as she smiled at him and walked through a portal. Shit. Sasuke murmured, feeling cheated by the fact that he wouldn't be getting it for another week. Everyone expected Naruto to be out of commission for a while, but the next day he appeared to the villain prison with the mission of reaping their souls and gaining their wisdom. It was so unexpected that no one could respond before the job was done and the place was cleared of life, and this time there was no wiggle room as hundreds of kilometers had converted to dead terrain. To be continued.
What's up, guys? This is Anime Crossover. I'm back with a new episode of What If Naruto Was the King of All Saiyans, Part 4. And if you did enjoy the video, give this video a like, and if you much I like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more crossover fictions. Now let's begin this new video.